Yo, what's up, strategists? Welcome to the Bitcoin Strategy. Today, I want to talk about the new partnership between Tether, SoftBank, Bitfinex, and Strike, or more specifically, Jack Mallers. He's the CEO of this new venture, and the merger between Cantor Equity Partners and 21 Capital. Let's get into it. Now, a little background on 21 Capital. In this section, I'll be talking about the CEO, backgrounds of all five companies, and where the funding will come from. 21 Capital will trade under the ticker symbol XXI on the NASDAQ once everything gets approved on Cantor's side. It'll be majority owned and controlled by Tether and Bitfinex, with SoftBank holding a significant minority stake in the company. If we look at this chart, I drew up 42% owned by Tether, 16% Bitfinex, SoftBank, 24%. This is the shares owned. This is not the voting power. So Tether having a majority control over 51% of the voting power is an extreme benefit that I will explain later in this video. Parties with a significant minority control like SoftBank have an undoubtedly strong position in the company. However, them controlling less than 50% of it pretty much makes it Tether's company. Because, of course, voting power controls everything. If we look at the pro forma statement from 21 Capital, as we can see, I pulled the numbers from this chart right here, the post convert. This is who will own what shares once the company goes public and trading under the ticker symbol XXI. As we can see here, public investors, the convertible note holders, us, Cantor Equity Partners, we hold 0% of the voting power. And as I said, with Tether, they own a majority stake of the voting power. So pretty much whatever Tether say goes in 21 Capital. 21 Capital will also be ran by Strike CEO Jack Mallers, as I mentioned in the beginning. If you don't know what Strike is it's a pretty good Bitcoin only exchange. They let you transact over the Lightning Network. They let you set up recurring buys with Bitcoin. So if you don't want to go in the app or anything, you can have it set up to where, let's say you wanted to buy $50 of Bitcoin every week. You can set that up in the app. It's super simple. Their interface is clean. It looks nice. And everything works pretty fine. One of the features I like about Strike that other Bitcoin only exchanges like River, the exchanges like River don't have is if you were to transact, if you were to send money to someone overseas, they live in a different country, you can send it to them 24/7 instantaneously without having to go through a Forex on Strike. This is because Strike uses Bitcoin as a bridge. The senders, so when you send money on Strike to a person in another country, you buy Bitcoin with your dollars. The Bitcoin is then sent to whoever it is. It can be a relative overseas with the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network is fast. It makes Bitcoin transactions done in under a second. And Strike automatically sells the Bitcoin on the receiver side to their native currency. Now, isn't that cool? And no, this isn't sponsored. On to why 21 chose Cantor Equity Partners. Now, Cantor Equity Partners is a special purpose acquisition company, meaning it's a company set up so another company can come along and get an easy into the stock market. Now, Cantor is a SPAC company that allows companies acquired or merge into it to have faster publication on the stock market without having to go through a traditional IPO, which can be expensive and timely. In this case, 21 Capital will be merging into CEP, taking its spot on the market. Cantor Equity Partners will stop trading in place of XXI 21 Capital. If the merge is ever confirmed by both Cantor and 21 Capital, you should want to be on the lookout for a CEP redemption program. Now, what that is when companies get merged, sometimes they'll have a redemption program where, let's say CEP, they give you two options. You can convert once the companies get merged, you can convert your CEP shares to cash, or you can convert those CEP shares to X or to 21 Capital. Now you get to choose whatever looks like a better deal. You'll be able to choose. Make sure to be on the lookout for that if you do make an investment in CEP and 21. Now, 21 acts as a competitor to MicroStrategy, acquiring large amounts of Bitcoin. It's starting off with 42,000 Bitcoin, which will make it number 3 on out of all public Bitcoin treasury companies. It's here to capitalize on the Bitcoin treasury market while also providing amazing Bitcoin education. 21 Capital doesn't have any heavy baggage like Strategy. Strategy has a huge operating business. It sucks a lot of capital, so they have to put some money towards that. Whereas 21 Capital will just have that Bitcoin treasury company. So whatever 21 Capital gets in terms of revenue, in terms of making money, they could just shovel it into Bitcoin. This can be a good thing depending on how ambitious they are with their Bitcoin treasury strategy. In the end, I still think Saylor of MicroStrategy is a better buy. However, I will be watching 21 closely. Now, on to this last one, Big Brother Tether. Remember earlier how I said Tether owning a majority control of 21 Capital is a good thing? That's because Tether holds a pretty good stack of Bitcoin back at home. If we see here, this is on bitcointreasuries.net. As we can see here, Tether, their private company, owns 100,000 Bitcoin, and MicroStrategy itself owns 550,000. That's a lot of Bitcoin. So Tether and 21 Capital will get close to MicroStrategy, but not quite there. They'll have to make some buys and keep catching up with their buys, but 21 Capital could definitely be a good contender to MicroStrategy. Now, if Tether were to ever, using its 100,000 Bitcoin, transfer it to 21 Capital, they'll be able to rapidly boost the holdings of the company, exponentially increasing shareholder profit. It would only make sense as Tether owns a majority voting control of the company. Whatever Tether says in 21 Capital is in order. Maybe perhaps they develop a strategy to leverage Tether's stablecoin capital further. Who knows? Now, in short, 21 Capital has the potential to be a strategically advantaged Bitcoin treasury company if they play all their cards right. It's backed by many big ultra Bitcoin bulls like Jack Mallers and has some pretty good educational content like the slides presented in the pro forma ownership document we looked over earlier. That's this right here. There's a bunch of stuff you can read in here about Bitcoin, how 21 Capital will be structured, who owns what, who's the CEO, CFO, C-suite. You can find all that here. If I were you, I'd definitely be on the lookout for 21 Capital because it does look promising. Now, if you enjoyed this content, feel free to like, comment, or even subscribe. It's very much appreciated. And as always, stay orange pilling, stack sats, and have a great rest of your day.